Return of the great departed soul. Yes, please. That's me. 23rd of October in the defendant's antechamber of the Old Bailey. Here we go. I can't believe it's been 6 months since I was last allowed to work in court. Oh, right, yeah. Okay, so since it's been a while, quick recap. Ryunosuke, our lovely main character, has been not allowed to work in the courts of England, or of London, for 6 months because he exposed government secrets. How dare. And this case we're working on, Hairbrain, the defendant, was demonstrating his super high voltage instantaneous kinesis machine and accidentally killed a guy. So we are defending the guy and proving it was an accident. Because otherwise people take apart his machine, and he doesn't want that to happen. Anyway, can't believe it's been 6 months. And now here I am, back at the Old Bailey. Because of course. Ah, Mr. Naruhodo. Good morning, Professor Hairbrain. I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. The atmospheric pressure in here is off the charts. I've never felt anything like it. It's crushing me. You're nervous. I feel it every time I'm here. That gravity. Well, this is Britain's highest court. But are you telling me it's fitted with some kind of device that can actually control air pressure? I think it's probably all in the mind. Ah, yes, well, you won't let me down, will you, Mr. Naruhodo? I'm counting on you in today's trial to save my life! I will do my bestest, like I always do. I always do my bestest. It's almost like it's my job. To save the secret of my super high voltage instantaneous kinesis machine from being made public. Yes, I understand. I know what I have to do. I will do my bestest. I have to establish that the explosion 2 days ago was nothing more than an unfortunate accident. See, that's the problem. I don't think it fully was. Well, I'm sure there's nothing to worry about, really. Justice will prevail. My commiserations, Mr. Naruhodo. You appear to have been lumbered with a most tiresome case here. Sholmes! I didn't expect to see you here. No, I really didn't. Honestly. That was very mean, Runo, leaving me alone at home with Hurley. took me at least an hour to wake him. Ah! Oh. Ah. Is it... Are you... Herlock Sholmes? Indeed, sir. I am he. Herlock Sholmes! Oh, I've heard all about your exploits, even whilst living in Germany. Ah, yes. Ranced magazine is on sale in Germany, too. This month's installment was sublime. Your deduction in The Adventure of Silver Blaze was wonderful. Ah, yes, a memorable case indeed. Concerned a snake, I seem to recall? No, that was the speckled band. Well, thank you for coming. I do appreciate your support. I'm sorry to disappoint you, my dear fellow, but I'm afraid I can't stay. Oh. I have urgent business at Madame Tuspel's. Is it being a waxwork? Is your urgent business being a waxwork? You mean your waxwork job? No. The waxwork abduction, of course. Madam has engaged my services. Ah, so you're trying to get to the bottom of that ransom note, are you? The week's wages depend on it. As does the safe return of the waxwork, naturally. $5. The missing waxwork and the explosion are connected. As such, I intend to give it my undivided attention. Ah, well, never mind then. I understand. Of course, with my skills of observation and reasoning, resolving the matter will be as easy as proverbial pie. I shall return forthwith. For until I solve the case, I shall have no money to afford a pie of any description. Ooh, then you must absolutely give it your full attention, Hurley. Quite, Iris, quite. But life is riddled with irony, you know. Whenever I give something my full attention, I have a quite insatiable desire for a pie. One of the universe's intractable mysteries, you might say. It's probably because you keep saying everything's easy as pie. Oh, yes, quite, definitely, absolutely, I totally understand. Is someone a little starstruck? I wish you the very best of luck, Professor Harebrain. Why, thank you! Before I depart, Mr. Naruhodo, a word in your ear, if you please. What's this about? As you have remarkable little grounding in science, I feel I ought to inform you. As compelling as this super high voltage instantaneous kinesis hypothesis might be, a practical implementation, such as was attempted by the professor at the Great Exhibition, is quite impossible. See, this is why I'm saying the waxwork is probably related. This is why I'm saying the waxwork is related. Because I think it's related. Secret to Spell's technique of capturing a perfect likeness. And this guy kind of looks like he'd go by the name of the Professor. is boss of a large criminal organization. I think the waxwork's related. But the professor said the demonstration was a success. Yes, it would appear that he fervently believes it was. I've read Professor Bunnybrain's paper about it too, Runo, and I have to say, I'm sure it can't be done. It could barely be done theoretically, let alone practically. So he's completely barking up the wrong tree. But how could an experiment that had no possibility of succeeding, in fact, succeed? That's contradictory. And it's that contradiction that will be at the heart of the trial, I've no doubt. What's that supposed to mean? Now, I must hurry along. I wish you the best of luck, my dear fellow. See you later, Hurley. And off he goes. Well, it looks like you're on your own today, Runa. But chin up! You can do it. Oh, what about you, Iris? Ah, no, I'm afraid I can't help. I have something I need to do. I see. It's gonna be a big surprise for you when you find out what it is. Huh. That sounds ominous. Counsel for the defense and the defendant. Court is about to be in session. Make your way into the courtroom at once. We are on our way. An experiment that the laws of science can't possibly succeed. And a scientist who's convinced that it did. That's the riddle you have to unlock here, Ryunosuke. That's the key to this case. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. We are sitting today for the public trial of Professor Albert Harebrain. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is ready. The defense is ready, my lord. My guy. I know it's been a while, but I'm 6 months out of practice. What's more, I'm without Susato-san today. And without Iris. Okay. Okay. Ugh. Is it just my imagination, or does the air in here feel even more oppressive than usual? So, I must say I recollect the victim of this case all too well. Mr. Odie Asman. I'm sure there's a way to pronounce it that makes it a pun. Mr. Asman was well known as a financier, although that was merely a front for his diverse criminal activities. It was only a month ago that the man appeared in court prosecuted by you, Lord Van Zykes. The jury unanimously found him not guilty, because every member of the jury had been bribed by the sound of it. These powerful London criminals are prepared to go to extreme lengths to keep their freedom. But 2 days ago, on the 21st of October, Mr. Asman met his end. Went his end? What? I'm confused. The work of the Reaper, was it? If that is how your lordship would describe divine retribution. The fact remains that Mr. Asmund's death was a direct result of the actions of the accused, Professor Harebrain. Very well, then. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have been selected at random to represent the will of the people. How randomly? How many of these guys will I know? Are the 6 of you ready to fulfill your societal duty? I'm most gratified to have been selected to carry out this important civic duty, my lord. You look very stern. To have a man's fate in the palm of one's hand. Oh gosh, oh golly, it sends shivers down my spine. Science experiments, magic, conjuring tricks, courtroom trials, all are nothing more than performances. So I know none of them. Yay! New guys. Any spurious scholar that defiles the reputation of science deserves to hang. We have to listen to what's said on both sides of the fence and, settle on one. That's it, isn't it? Oh no, I recognize this guy, though. I recognize that guy. Bonk. Wasn't like this in my day. Wasn't like this at all. Okay. That's the police killer otter mole lookalike again. And he's as exhausted as ever, it seems. Now, as I'm sure you're all aware, the incident we are here to judge today tragically took place at the Great Exhibition, shortly after its opening. Though the death toll could have been far worse, with the exception of the victim, no one was killed. Nevertheless, the dream of the science being exhibited rapidly turned into a nightmare for the spectators. A tragic turn of events, and as such, the eyes of all London, no, the whole world, will be on this trial. It is our duty to reach a swift and just conclusion, I feel. So, your opening statement, please, Lord Van Zykes. At the heart of this incident is technology never before demonstrated anywhere in the world. One of science's latest developments, I take it. The government is keen to capitalize on the Great Exhibition to improve Britain's technological advantage. The technology being demonstrated by the accused was described as super high voltage instantaneous kinesis. Good lord! It's designed to disassemble human subjects using extremely high voltage electricity and beam them instantly to another location where they are subsequently reassembled. Is such a thing even within the realms of possibility? It's very Star Trek, I'll give him that. Well, I don't believe it, that's for sure. Disassembling people with electricity? My goodness! How shocking. Ha! The whole idea is absurd. The hypothesis would never stand up to scrutiny. Sir, I believe you are a fellow of the Royal Society, are you not? An expert in your field? I am, and my word on the matter can be considered final. Instantaneous kinesis is poppycock. So this expert here, and Mr. Sholmes are in agreement. It's impossible. What is the prosecution's view on the matter? Prosecution's view can wait while I open a drink. The prosecution would assert that the accused's instantaneous kinesis demonstration was a success because of where the body was found. What rot! Anyway, order! Order! The professor's hypothesis is currently under investigation by the British government. If it is deemed to have merit, a substantial research grant would be made available. The accused made use of the invention built on his new hypothesis to take Mr. Asman's life, in order to be the sole benefactor of the grant. But... This disastrous demonstration was no accident. It was carefully designed from the outset to end the life of the victim. Okay, that part I'll believe. I won't believe it was harebrained, though. Thank you, Lord Van Zykes. The prosecution's stance is clear. But you will now bring forth witnesses to substantiate your claims. Gladly, my lord. Let's see who our witnesses are. Is one going to be Gina? Is one going to be Lestrade? Off comes the cape. It's serious tie. Witnesses, state your names and occupations for the court. Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard's Homicide Division. I was on duty at the demonstration on the day in question and in charge of the following investigation. Don't vibrate at me, phone. Albert Harebrain, scientist. You were born in England, but have been carrying out research in Germany in recent years, correct? Yes, that's right. After graduating from university here in Britain, I went to work in Germany and made an amazing discovery. Which is what brought me back. I had to demonstrate my incredible hypothesis at the Great Exhibition. I keep substituting grand for great. What you demonstrated was incredible, all right. An incredible explosion. But the science was a success! The instantaneous kinesis worked! Everyone saw it. They must have. Yes, there was the terrible accident, but the demonstration of my hypothesis was a success. Well, that much is undeniable, as shown in this photograph taken by the forensic investigation team. This was taken inside the Crystal Tower, I take it. The centerpiece of the exhibition, no less. That's right, my lord. Seems the victim rammed straight into it. I see. Very well. Submit the photograph as evidence. It shows an apparent stab wound. Oh. As the courts heard, the victim of the incident was Mr. Odie Asman. There have been a number of allegations made against the man, but putting them aside for the time being, He was the man who financed the research for the experiment and the demonstration itself. I see. So, to summarize the situation, the defendant is accused of taking the life of the man who funded his work. Would that be correct? Exactly. But couldn't it be that the explosion was caused by some malfunction of the apparatus used for the demonstration? That's right, that must be it! My splendid machine! My poor, splendid machine! You saw it yesterday, didn't you? We can't even examine the wreckage, thanks to the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. What? The wreckage? The wreckage? But that being the case, how can the facts be established? Very carefully. Probably. How can it possibly be determined whether this was an accident or a deliberate and malicious act? Extremely simply, my lord. I beg your pardon? Isn't that right, witness? What? Sorry? Me? No, your neighbor. Yes, sir, it was murder, plain and simple. Anyone could state that with complete certainty. What? How can he possibly think that? Autopsy, probably. Thank you, Inspector. I think we'd better proceed to formal testimony. You will explain to the court on what grounds you claim this experiment to have been a front for murder. A front for murder? Ah! The corpse that went crashing through the crystal tower had a broken neck. I made a minor miscalculation in the angle of the beam projection, that's all. That was my mistake. But the post-mortem examination revealed another injury, a fatal wound. There was a lesion in his chest where he'd clearly been stabbed by something sharp right in the heart. So the victim was killed before he went anywhere. And this fella's the only one who could have done it. An extraordinary business. In addition to suffering a broken neck, the victim was stabbed in the heart? Information I really would like to have heard from someone other than the judge. The coroner said death would have been all but instant from a wound like that. You could say, in fact, that the victim was killed twice by the accused. No, and no! That couldn't be further from the truth. I have here the experiment plan document that was submitted to the security team. The victim stood himself inside something called the bird cage, ready to be beamed instantly. To the second level of the crystal tower, about 25 yards away. The experiment did not go according to plan, however. As the machine was put into operation, there was a large explosion. The blast caused the beam transmitter to point higher than intended. Accordingly, the kinesis resulted in the birdcage materializing in midair, from where it subsequently fell, crashing through the glass of the crystal tower's large round window. My word. One assumes the victim's neck was broken upon impact with the tower, then. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. The machine was just too powerful. But honestly, really, I swear it was just an accident. A terrible accident. Unfortunately, that excuse can't save you. No, not considering the sharp murder weapon that pierced the victim's heart. Murder weapon? What are you saying? This is the autopsy report submitted by the coroner. The prosecution would like it entered into the court record. Give me that autopsy report. I was there in person, you know. I saw the whole ludicrous performance. And the only other person on the stage with Mr. Asman was that disgraceful excuse for a scientist. And really, by all accounts, it must have been him. Huh. Hard to think otherwise, really. Very well. Counsel for the defense. We're back to visual novel blah blah blah. Proceed with the cross-examination, please. Oh, yes, my lord. Need to focus here. It's been a while. Alright, I'm going to look at the autopsy report for fun. Odie Asman, male. Coroner Courtney Scythe. 47, British, around 2:20 p.m. Hemorrhage of a wound to the chest that pierced the heart, inflicted by a sharp implement. Additional observations: a broken vertebrae likely resulting from impact after a sudden fall from considerable height.
Hold it!
Pressing everything. Are you suggesting that's because he fell from a considerable height? Exactly, which highlights something else about this whole rum business. What's that? The fact that the instantaneous kinesis itself was a success. After the explosion, the cage with the fella inside suddenly appeared out of nowhere in midair. So, although the experiment ended in disaster, the so-called instantaneous kinesis did actually occur. Remind us, Professor, what was the cause of the fatal disaster? Minor miscalculation in the angle of the beam projection, which you didn't really, because the explosion knocked it willy-nilly. So the angle of projection is critical, is it? And you calculated it yourself, personally? Absolutely. The calculation is far too complicated for anyone but me to carry out. Only, you got it wrong, didn't you? Yes, that's right, that's the point! The calculation is so complicated even I can make a mistake. Do people fall for that brazen confidence? I should try it. I took into account the subject's height and weight, the wind direction, the ambient temperature. I considered every possible variable, so I just don't understand how this could have happened. Obviously, then, you had to include the weight of the clothes Mr. Asman was wearing at the time, I suppose. Ah. Crackling comets, the answer should have been 3! So much for safety first. The 3 must be for safety third. A fatal wound. Tell me about the fatal wound. Another fatal injury, you say? That doesn't make any sense. I didn't think I'd have to spell this out, but here we go. Just because there was 2 fatal wounds doesn't mean I'm saying the victim had 2 lives to lose, does it? Too right. Obviously, at first we thought the bloke had died due to his spine snapping in half as well. Okay, a broken neck is not quite in half. Anyway. But you're saying that's not the case. You'll get your answer once I'm finished my fish and chips, if you don't keep butting in every few seconds. We all know that's a bottomless bag. Fourth wall? Who's she? The victim plummeted 30 feet into a glass tower. It would only be reasonable to assume that as the cause of death. Right, that's what we all thought. But it was a red herring, wasn't it? There was a lesion in his chest where he'd been stabbed. Tell me about stabbed. The defense knew nothing of this crucial information. The prosecution received this report from the forensic investigation team only this morning. That was the first we knew of it as well. I can only apologize for the impossibility of informing the defense. Sarcastic and insincere. Thanks! So, what was the nature of this sharp object? Among the accused's tools that were in use at the demonstration, one is of particular interest. Excuse me. Did I not see an A-shaped screwdriver? Ah, yes, that would appear to be some kind of screwdriver, wouldn't it, Counsel? Ah-ha-ha-ha-ha! There he is! My trusty little companion, Andrew! Is that why it's shaped like an A? Or are you calling it Andrew because it's shaped like an A? That's a chicken or egg situation, isn't it? Did you name the screwdriver because of its shape, or is the screwdriver shaped that way because of the name? Andrew. Of course. Sorry. Oh, you're Albert, right? Ah, do you know each other already? He's one of my dear friends, like all my tools. I've named them all, you know. We're one big, happy family. Okay, if that's the case, I don't think this guy would have stabbed someone with the screwdriver. Mood. Just the... Andrew is my flathead screwdriver, of course. His brother Michael is a crosshead. Well, it would appear your beloved Andrew has a red stain on his shank. Okay, I'm sorry. Why would you call a crosshead screwdriver Michael and not Philip? Or is that just Is that just like a Canadian thing, calling that a Phillips head? Or is that the actual name? Either way. Although it might be called a Phillips head because it's like a brand name like Kleenex or something. Anyway. Andrew has blood. It's blood beyond all reasonable doubt. No! And that's not all. The long, sharp shape of this Andrew fellow is completely consistent with the victim's wound. What? What? Like I said, I don't think he would have stabbed someone with a screwdriver he's, like, named and is, like, a family member. The court will enter this friend of the defendant as evidence. So one of Professor Harebrain's tools is the murder weapon. Great!
Hold it!
What grounds do you have for saying that? Do you really need to ask? There were only 2 people on that public experimentation stage in front of the whole crowd. The victim, Mr. Odie Asman, and the accused, Professor Harebrain. And we know for certain that before the experiment, the victim was alive. That's right, I saw him with my own eyes. Furthermore, following the explosion and kinesis, nobody went anywhere near the body. In other words, only someone on stage with the victim could possibly have done it. Excuse me. Hi. Do you have opinions on this, buddy?
Excuse me.
I'm sorry to bother you, Harebrain. Professor Harebrain, do you have some information that may be relevant here? I start streaming, I start yawning. What is this? Professor! Sorry. I was just calculating the optimum coefficient of electrolysis to separate molecules in the human body. And the witness stand is the best place for that? Seems as though you might have something to say about Inspector Gregson's last remark. Yes, that's right, of course. He just said that nobody else could have done it, didn't he? Yeah, that's right. And who else could have stabbed the victim, eh? I don't know, but there's no way that I could possibly have stabbed Mr. Asmund, as you say. Eh? Explain, please, Professor. Of course. As cold-hearted policemen may not be aware, I suppose. But humans are warm-blooded mammals with blood running continuously through their veins. I'd heard. Then surely you see. If I'd plunged something the size of Andrew into the man's chest, the whole stage would have been a bloodbath. No, a blood swimming pool. Thousands of Londoners were watching me at the time. Yeah, I suppose that is another reason. My main thought was he wouldn't have wanted to use, quote, Andrew. And yet not one of them claims to have seen a swimming pool of blood. Well, no, I suppose not. You see? Not one! True, I didn't see anything like that. His magical color-changing fluid is fascinating. Quite frankly. Well done, Professor. That was a great counter-argument. Teleportation's real. The absolutely not delusional. Yeah, that about sums this up. Order in the court. Pray, forgive the discourtesy if I savor a drop from my hallowed chalice to accompany my old friend's adducing?
Adduce.
Adducing. Okay, yeah. Here's to you, Albert. Oh, you're too kind, Barock, but I'm really not a patch on you. No, you're not. No? You've neglected to mention one crucial possibility. I have? A particular situation in which very little bleeding would result from a stab wound. Ah, of course. Inspector, enlighten the court, please. Yes, sir. Part of why I end up looking up words. Blade was either freezing or left in the stab wound. Like it wasn't taken out. Because if you leave something in, it acts as sort of a plug. Very well, you will amend your formal testimony now, Inspector Gregson. Weapon the victim was stabbed with must have been left in his body whilst he was beamed through the air. Gasp. No idea the victim had been stabbed. That changes everything. Van Sykes keep it to himself on purpose to gain the advantage? Oh well, I suppose all I can do is press witnesses for as much new information as possible. Well, I already did. Alright. I am going to play Investigate My Evidence. What? It's blood? Wait, when did that get there? This is the problem with looking at murder weapons. I've seen this unusually shaped handle before. It's the same screwdriver that was lodged in the grill on the floor of the kinesis machine. Which could be important information, so I should definitely make a note of it. Ah, so it couldn't have remained in his chest because it was in the grill of the machine on the stage. Should investigate this funky looking thing. If there is any points I can investigate. There's some sort of lever here. Whoa, 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 whoa! It looks like a cross between a bow and a gun. I think it's probably used for the same thing, too. The details of the crossbow have been updated. This groove here must be where the arrows are loaded, I suppose. So I was right, it's a sort of bow with an automatic firing mechanism. This would be perfect for someone like me who catches his ear with the bowstring 2 times out of 3. Of course. In fact, if I'd had one of these, maybe I could have beaten Kazuma in Kyoto archery training. Well, I'm sure you could beat Kazuma in archery training now. I'm sorry, that was dark. Looks like you wind this around in order to draw the bowstring back and create tension. You must be able to fire arrows with a huge amount of force using this device. I would imagine it's far more accurate and powerful than a Japanese longbow. I really had no idea what I was picking up when I spotted this at the exhibition grounds. Alright, that's all the investigation of this I can do, huh? Looks like. Alright, I have a crossbow. Okay, that's... Alright. Do you remember where this was? You say that while the weapon remains in the body, there's very little bleeding. Is that unequivocal? Look, there was no blood on the experimentation stage, even though that's where the fellow was stabbed. The only explanation for that is if the screwdriver was still in his body, stopping any heavy bleeding. It's common medical knowledge, my learned friend, even on your side of the world. Yes, but about this screwdriver. The thing is, we actually saw it at the scene ourselves. On the experimentation stage. It was on the floor by the wreckage of the machine, poking through a metal grill. I went to pick it up, but the detective here stopped me. Isn't that right, Inspector Gregson? Well, now that you come to mention it, yes. Inspector, are we to understand you permitted the defense counsel to investigate? Would you have stopped me? Just wondering. That you contravened the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. No, not at all. I wouldn't do that. I just let him look, nothing more. I was very clear he wasn't to touch a thing. Yes, that's true. This screwdriver was in plain sight on the stage. But it shouldn't have been, should it? What are you getting at? If this tool had still been in the victim's body when the victim was beamed away by the machine, then it shouldn't have still been on the stage. It should have been beamed across the Crystal Tower along with Mr. Asman. And been found still lodged in the victim's chest. They gotta send people in with, like, cleaning tools after Inspector Gregson has been in the courtroom. How do you explain this, Inspector? I don't... It looks as though everything the victim had on his person moved with him when he was beamed. If the screwdriver was still in his chest when the instantaneous kinesis occurred, obviously that should have been beamed to the destination as well. This is a strange situation. Even though people are saying that this instantaneous kinesis is a scientific impossibility, which it kinda is, we're still basing arguments on the assumption that it did actually take place. Alright, time to tighten the screws here. Heh. My lord? If the prosecution is unable to explain this inconsistency in its argument, we can only conclude that the testimony given in support cannot be relied upon. Lord Van Zykes is stumped! What's up, Hairbrain? Do you have something to say, witness? Yes, I knew it! It bears out. The equations hold. Mr. Naruhodo, don't worry! About what? Without delving into the details, there is no inconsistency. What? Even if Andrew had been lodged in Mr. Asmund's chest, my trusty tool wouldn't have moved. Andrew remaining on the stage is consistent with my calculations. You know you're digging yourself a hole, my guy. How many of those do you go through? I wonder every time. It would seem your illusions have been shattered. Clearly, we should hear the accused's explanation. Or should I say, this brilliant scientist's explanation. Just when I'd found an inconsistency in the prosecution's argument. Scientists. Very well, the defendant will testify again. Provide us with the scientific explanation as to why the inconsistency asserted by the defense fails to hold. In the name of Apollo, I will, my lord. To be clear, I'm still at the stage of gathering data in my research. My hypothesis states the kinesis cannot transport metal, though. Hence, the metal weapon would have stayed put. In other words, the point just raised by Mr. Naruhodo isn't an inconsistency at all. Mr. Asmund was the patron of my research. Without him, my work wouldn't have been possible. Now I have a duty to protect the incredible machine that we built together. So the thrust of your testimony, Professor, is that based upon his hypothesis, metal objects cannot be moved by this method of instantaneous kinesis. Oh no, terrible. In other words, since the screwdriver is made of metal, even if it remained lodged in the victim's chest, its subsequent discovery on the stage, despite the victim being found elsewhere, is not an inconsistency. And therefore... I'm sorry, I love the judge going, English? and therefore Professor Albert Harebrain could still have been the killer. My great hypothesis holds, you see! We had to make the cage used to contain the subject from wood for that very reason. I was not addressing you, witness. Professor Harebrain. Yes? Whose side are you on here? I don't take sides, Mr. Naruhodo. No, no, no. My only interest lies in upholding my hypothesis. I'm a scientist, after all. Is he working for us or against us? It's very hard to tell. Let's see how you cross-examine this testimony, my Nipponese friend. Fire away, Mr. Naruhodo. Cannot transport metal. Let me just... There's metal in the glasses, isn't there?
Objection!
Professor Harebrain, you say that according to your hypothesis, nothing made of metal can be beamed by instantaneous kinesis using the machine you made. Is that right? Yes, that's right. Spot on. Exactly correct. In that case, I'd ask you to have a look at this photograph that was taken at the scene. In particular, I'd like you to pay attention to the victim's face. You can clearly see that Mr. Asman is wearing a pair of spectacles with a metal rim. What? Metal? No, metal can't. That's not metal? No! We've already established that the proposed murder weapon, the screwdriver, was found on the stage. However, if your hypothesis correctly predicted that outcome, it should also have predicted that the metal-rimmed spectacles would be found in the same place. My hypothesis! My hypothesis! Professor Harebrain, this isn't easy for me to say, but your hypothesis is clearly flawed. Poor science man. It's okay. What is the implication of this? If, on the day in question, the alleged instantaneous kinesis never actually took place, then it's entirely possible that the victim was killed somewhere other than on the stage. And in that case, someone other than the defendant could have been the culprit. But my hypothesis! My hypothesis is sound! I proved it that day. The experiment was a success. The experiment was proof of all my work. If I could say something here, in my capacity as a fellow of the Royal Society. Yes, juror number 4, go ahead. As a man of science, there's one thing I simply cannot abide. And that's a fraud who pretends to be a fellow man of science. Wait. What? Wait, great Scott! Are you suggesting my science is suspect? It's just been disproved, hasn't it? In front of all of us. In other words, the whole demonstration was a complete nonsense from start to finish. Believe me, my fellow jurors, when I tell you that this man is a heel, a bounder, and a fraud. I say the wreckage of that machine should be stripped down and thoroughly examined. No, never! A machine is the essence of my entire hypothesis. It's protected by the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. The devil is that blasted act all about? Who made up such a daft rule? I don't like the way this seems to be going. It's the best way for me to help with the professor. We go, hey, chill.
Objection.
Professor Harebrain has yet to perfect his invention. That would seem to be the case, yes. But even so what? Going to such trouble and expense to create a fake machine to display in public. He would have absolutely no reason to do such a thing.
Objection.
He had an obvious reason to do exactly that. For the research grant money. The government was foolish enough to have deemed this man's ridiculous notion plausible. He and his conspirators would have received a handsome sum indeed. Conspirators? What would be the value of such a grant? £10? You're an order of magnitude out, madam. £500 a year. You could live handsome on that much for years. The Society's noticed an increase in bogus public demonstrations in the field of science recently. And plenty of scientists arguing with each other to get the largest slice of the funding cake. People's greed is plenty motive enough for murder, I assure you. No, I haven't deceived anyone. Least of all the government. My hypothesis is sound. The science is sound. Please, you must believe me.
Objection.
No matter how unbelievable this hypothesis may seem to you, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my gosh, is Van Zykes defending his friend's hypothesis? Oh, that's cute. The fact remains that the victim was transported instantly to the Crystal Tower. Whoa. Which means that the experiment was a success. Barrock! And therefore, the only person who could possibly have committed this murder is the accused. Barrock. Where is this heading? I have no idea. My lord, if I may. Yes, Lord Van Zykes? The prosecution would like to summon new witnesses to the stand. Why are words like this? New witnesses? What would be the nature of their involvement? They were spectators of the demonstration at the exhibition, who were occupying special seats. Eyewitnesses? Very well, the court grants the prosecution's request. I should very much like to hear from eyewitnesses to the incident. The prosecution's stance is clear. This experiment was no pastiche. Looking upwards, it's my favorite in this game.
Pastiche.
Okay, I did pronounce that correct. It was no toupee. It's something fake or a sham. But it could also mean fake hair. Like a toupee or a fake mustache. The accused killed the financier victim there on the public stage before the very eyes of the spectators. Now, my learned friend. Oh, yes? It's time for you to make your own stance clear. There's clearly a flaw in the professor's hypothesis. I can definitely see that. But where does that leave me? We shall take a short recess now, during which time the prosecution will prepare its new witnesses to take the stand. As you wish, my lord. Good. In that case, court is adjourned for 20 minutes. A full to be continued. Look at that. I'm not ending the stream there, though. I'm not that mean to you guys. I am gonna save. Third of October, 1044, Old Bailey, defendant's antechamber. Because, of course, everything's happening in the Old Bailey defendant's antechamber. Having a fucking party in here. Mr. Naruhodo, what on earth were you playing at just now? Or rather, what on earth were you playing at all along? My hypothesis! My amazing hypothesis! You've been picking holes in it from the start. Ah, sorry about that. But you promised me. You said you'd prove that dratted explosion was an accident, not murder. That's why I've been poking holes in your hypothesis. You said you'd keep my precious invention from falling into anyone else's hands. But all you've done so far is try to undermine me. Well, maybe your precious hypothesis isn't all it's cracked up to be. Yes, I did make you a promise. You're right. I said I'd believe in you and fight for your freedom to the very end. Never said a damn thing about fighting for your hypothesis. And I also told you, I was no scientist. I don't understand your hypothesis. The fact is, there's an undeniable flaw in your logic, isn't there? Ah, but if I just run through some equations... Yes, you see, it's because my work is incomplete. Perhaps it is. Nevertheless, a man died as a consequence, didn't he? Ah. Oh no. You're right. You're so right. It's all my fault. And I have no right to blame you for my failures. I'm a disaster. Not just as a scientist, but as a human being. That might be a little over the top. And while we're on the subject, what about Barrock? He's being awful. Claiming his old university friend to be a murderer, you mean? He's a disaster, not just as a prosecutor, but as a human being. Oh, but no, wait. He's the Reaper, isn't he? Perhaps he's not classified as Homo sapiens anymore. Glad that's cleared up. Can I double check something with you? Yes? What? The machine and demonstration you prepared, they were based entirely on your hypothesis, I presume. There was no trickery involved? I drew the plans for the machine with my very own hands. Every line was painstakingly drawn with the firm belief that science is the only future. Okay, yeah, but who built the machine? So yes, it's true my hypothesis hasn't reached maturity yet, but please, Mr. Naruhodo, you must believe in it. All right, Professor, I understand. Counsel, defendant? Prosecution's witnesses are ready to take the stand. Court is about to be in session again. Make your way into the courtroom, please. It all hinges on that demonstration. If the professor's hypothesis is as sound as he claims, it leaves him as the only person who could possibly have killed the victim. But on the other hand, Mr. Sholmes was adamant. A practical implementation, such as was attempted by the professor at the Great Exhibition, is quite impossible. So really, what should I be trying to prove here? In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby reconvene the proceedings of this court. Counsels for the defense and prosecution, are you ready for the new witnesses to testify? The prosecution is ready, my lord. As is the defense, my lord. So, Lord Van Zykes, I believe these next witnesses saw the demonstration on the day in question with their own eyes. Indeed they did. And as luck would have it, one of them is a police detective. So the testimony we are about to hear can be considered highly reliable. Perfect. A detective of all people. The prosecution's stance remains unchanged. Though it ended in tragedy, the demonstration on the day in question was scientifically sound. And consequently, the sole person with the opportunity to have committed this act of murder is the only other individual to have been present on the stage at the time, the accused. Thank you, counsel. The prosecution's position is clear. Bring forth your witnesses now. Witness it up. Bailiff, show the witnesses the witnesses whose proximity to the incident on the day in question will clarify the truth unequivocally. Why am I doing this to myself? Witnesses, state your names and occupations for the court to hear. My name is Balthazar Loon. I am the impresario of all the hot air balloons in vicinity of the Esperimento stage. My name is Wilhelm Gottfried Sigismund Ormstein. I have come to see the great exhibition all the way from my home in Bohemia. I'm very rich. Inspector Gina Lestrade, Scotland Yard. I'm a great detective. Even Erlock Sholmes agrees. I was on security duty at the exhibition, and I got to go up in one of them balloons. It was amazing. Gina, again. She did mention she'd seen the disaster from up in a balloon, actually, didn't she? And she clearly loved every minute of it. There were 3 balloons flying near the public experimentation stage when the incident occurred. 2 of these witnesses were in one such balloon at the time and saw events unfold from the skies above. You make it sound like they were in the clouds. It was only an altitude of circa 60 feet. Very low. Well, you can't see nothing if you fly too high, can you? 60 feet, about 18 meters then. Thank you for your introductions. Now you will give your formal testimony for the court. Kindly describe exactly what you witnessed, especially those of you who had a vantage point above the stage. The view from 60 feet up. It was an incident terrible. Terribile. I know a little bit of Italian, but I am only grateful that my balloons were not damaged. It's a huge bang from the stage, and then the next second, another bang in the sky beside us. And from amid the smoke, a cage appeared out of nowhere. The cage, it fell from the sky like a stone, crashed into the crystal tower. I didn't get a good look inside the cage, but no one went near it after it crashed into the tower. A most extraordinary collective account, I must say. I just clarify something. There's a detail in the witness's testimony that I've not heard any mention of until now. Specifically, that there were 2 explosions. More precisely, 2 explosions in 2 separate places, yes. When the demonstration began, the balloon carrying the 2 witnesses was around here. There were other balloons in the air nearby at the time, carrying other passengers as well, to be clear. And as power was supplied to the machine for the demonstration, the first explosion occurred. The so-called birdcage that contained the victim disappeared from the stage, and a moment later, the second explosion occurred directly adjacent to the balloon carrying the witnesses. The birdcage appeared at the site of the explosion, subsequently to plummet down into the crystal tower. I was very surprised. Suddenly a cage appeared before my eyes with a person inside. The blast was so hot, but I didn't want to miss a thing, so I kept my eyes wide. I still have lots of money. Precisely, who is this curious infant? Whose sassy lost child is this? I'm told he is a young noble of Bohemian royalty. Apparently, he disguised himself in order to steal unnoticed into the great exhibition. Yeah, I am here in London on a sightseeing trip with my elementary school. We will have the benefit of a child's point of view in the testimony. Do we really need that? When I remove my mask, this is what I look like. It's not that different. Ah, yes, I see a delightful face, I'm sure. Yeah, everybody says so. Great skies, then. The point is, the testimony of these witnesses further substantiates the facts for the court. Namely, that despite ending in an explosion, instantaneous kinesis was successfully demonstrated. And furthermore, that until the arrival of the police, no one approached the crystal tower where the victim fell. Therefore, only the accused, who was with Mr. Asman on stage, could have committed the murder. Thank you, counsel. The prosecution's views on the matter are quite clear. The defense's cross-examination now, please. And of course, press everything, because that's how I work.
Hold it!
There were 3 balloons flying above the experimentation stage at the time, I understand. Sì, all 3 of them, my bellissimi bambini. They're very popular, signor. Some people will pay £10 for one ride. That's more than my annual stipend. £20 a month. That is my pocket money. Royals have all the luck. I got up there for free, I did. Played the old I work for Majesty's police card, you know. Detectives have all the luck. If they're so popular, why would you only be operating such a small number of balloons, though? Because if I have too many in the skies, they could crash into each other. The operators for the balloons were decided by lots, with each operator mining a particular area. He. See, and the zone above the public experimentation stage is the most profitable. The other impresarios, they hate me. Thank you, witness. I think the court has a clear picture of the arrangements for balloon rides at the exhibition. Perhaps we could hear some more about what you actually witnessed of the incident. Huge bang from the stage, and then the next second, another bang in the sky beside us.
Hold it!
Tell us more. So you actually saw the accident happen from up in the air? Yep. Isn't it amazing what a detective gets to do, eh? I'm telling you, Otto. Being a lawyer's a mug's game. You should join the force and we can go flying together. You know me so well. Well, anyway. Could you tell us exactly what you saw, do you think? Everything! We saw everything, because we were up above it all. Dodgy Cove climbing into that cage, that dodgy professor pulling all them levers. And that's when it happened. That's when there was that massive bang and the cage disappeared just like that. You are describing the moment the subject's body was decomposed by the electricity, I believe. I didn't know what to make of it, but then there was another bang right in my ear. Looked around and there was a huge, great fireball next to us in the sky. And there was nothing there before.
Excuse me.
Master Gotts, does your memory of the day differ? My teacher at elementary school said that when you meet someone for the first time, you should always use their full name. Yes, what was it again? Wilhelm Gottfried Sigismund Ormstein. Just the 4 names, then. Point is, do you have something to say? Something to add in response to Detective Gina Lestrade's last remark, perhaps? Oi! Get it right, Otto. It's Inspector Lestrade. Why does everyone have a problem with how I address them at the moment? Fuck you, that's why. That is not what I saw. Oh? Yeah. There was a second explosion, and it was right beside our balloon. That is true. That is true. But I'm sure. Which is what I said, isn't it? 1 minute there was nothing there, next a massive explosion. My teacher at elementary school said that when someone else is speaking, if you are rude enough to interrupt, you will have the most awful life imaginable. Are all Bohemians brought up to be so full of joy? Just before the second explosion happened next to our balloon, I clearly witnessed a green balloon flying in the sky. A green balloon. You what? I never saw nothing like that. Well, I did. I saw it, and you can't say I did it. I will complain to the consul. I will cry and scream. My testimony is the truth. I am Bohemian Prince. You cannot say it is a lie. That is not allowed. Playing the bleeding royalty card, are you? Typical. Says the orphan who likes to remind people she works for Her Majesty's Police. In that case, young man, I must ask you to amend your formal testimony. In the interests of cordial national relations between Great Britain and Bohemia. It was not the sky that exploded. It was a green balloon that was next to ours at the time. Would you like this? Mr. Loon, in your testimony, you said that all three of the balloons you had operating at the time were undamaged. See, that is correct. If they had been caught in the explosions, it would have been terrible. I wonder if you might know what this is. Ah, I think it may be... See, part of a balloon. A burnt piece of the fabric of the envelope. Sorry, the envelope? Pardon. That is the large round part of the balloon which becomes filled with hot air. It is made from very thick fabric lined with rubber. You do not want it to rip while you are in the sky. Well, didn't you say there was no damage to any of your balloons? This cloth was found near the experimentation stage. In other words, as Mr. Gotts testified, a green balloon did in fact explode that day. Oh, is someone being naughty? Is someone lying? If all the balloons up in the sky above the experimentation stage belong to you, Mr. Loon, then your statement they were all undamaged clearly contradicts the evidence.
Objection!
Oh. The instantaneous kinesis did occur, but after the explosion on the stage. Point of materialization shifted to a location occupied by a balloon, causing the balloon to explode. Yes, eminently plausible. An unfortunate traffic accident, as it were. That it changes nothing about the pertinent facts. I'm tilting this up so I don't have to look down as much. My neck's starting to hurt. It's like... This I cannot accept! Why not, Mr. Loon? You are suggesting that I am a liar. That persons died in a balloon incidente. There's no need to get fired up, Mr. Loon. The victim was the sole fatality that day. That's right, and I prove it! Balthazar Loon is not a liar. There's no such balloon in the sky. It is non possible. You're saying it's impossible? Why? This court has more important matters to discuss than the number of balloons that were operating that day.
Objection.
But we can't ignore the fact that nobody appears to have known anything about this other balloon until now. My lord, the defense calls for further testimony from Mr. Loon. There is clearly more to the truth here than meets the eye. It's imperative we clear up the issue of this phantom balloon, I feel. Witness, you will give supplementary testimony about the balloons you were operating at the exhibition. Grazie, my lord. Mr. Loon's balloons. As I said, Balthazar Loon is no liar. Every balloon I had in the sky landed safely. All 3 of my balloons were carrying passengers. If they fell to the ground in an explosion, what a catastrophe! But you can't get away from the fact that a burnt-up bit of cloth was found at the scene, can you? Coppers at the yard reckoned it was probably some debris thrown from the explosion on the stage. The stupido ragazzo is mistaken. My balloons have the red and blue zigzag stripes anyway. So your assertion is that the balloon the child saw was not one belonging to you? Si, exactamente! If he even saw a balloon in the first place. I do not like the sound of it. It is very bad for business. Good mind to sue the land of Bohemia. If you attack us, we will fight back. It will be war. All out war. What happened to all out war? Mr. Loon certainly doesn't appear to be lying, but that doesn't change the fact that the testimony and evidence are contradictory here. If the defense is unable to find fault with the witness's statements, the court must consider them the truth. Think long and hard on that, my learned friend. The situation has clearly changed now. I have to get to the bottom of what happened here, no matter what it takes. Let's cross-examine the witnesses. Witness. Singular, technically.
Hold it!
And press all the statements. Couldn't just have forgotten one, maybe? Signor, I might not notice if I was given 100 lentils and one was missing, but we are talking about 3 enormous balloons. Do you believe I could make a mistake about something so grande and expensive? I took the liberty of having Inspector Gregson check this gentleman's warehouse. I have the report here. It clearly says a total of 3 balloons. Which means there was a total of 3 balloons. Would appear no mistake has been made then. Surely Miss Lestrade could have been sent for such a menial task. What? Me? tell you what I told the boss. East End kids like me can only count up to 2. Obviously that ain't true, but the boss bought it and said he'd have to go and sit himself in that case. Ha. Yes, I'm pressing every statement. Would be quite a catastrophe if they fell to the ground for any reason, I think. On that note, Mr. Loon, tell me, what is it that keeps these balloons in the sky? Are you an idiota? Sorry? That is like asking, why does a candle burn bright? Burns bright because it burns bright, and a balloon flies because it flies. What else? That must be Italian for I don't know. There are 2 types of flying balloons, hot air balloons and gas balloons. Hot air balloons work on the principle of hot air being less dense than cold air, whereas gas balloons derive their lift by using a gas that is lighter than air. See, and my balloons are filled with the magic gas, I believe. Hydrogen, lighter than air, but highly explosive. I do not permit smoking of the cigarettes in any of my balloons. The magic gas does not like fire. Even a small spark of static electricity could cause the entire balloon to explode. What is the matter with you, senor? All that comes out of your mouth is explosion, explosion. I tell you, my balloons are perfectly safe. They have to be, or I cannot eat. None of my balloons exploded that day. I am completely sure. But if you still say that is what happened, you must show me the proof. So Mr. Loon has 3 balloons in the air that day. If none of them were damaged, then what was the one that exploded?
Hold it!
I was surprised to find the piece of fabric still at the scene, actually. Didn't you search the area surrounding the stage for clues? Nah, I'm not into picking stuff up off the ground, me. Always works out way better diving into people's pockets instead. So much for the new career path. Mind you, the boss was on his hands and knees picking up all kinds of rubbish from the floor. Thing is, though, the cage went crashing into the Crystal Tower, didn't it? So that's where most of the investigating was going on. Even so, I would have thought someone from Scotland Yard would have gathered it up as evidence. Oh, listen to you. Stumble across a bit of balloon and suddenly you're the best investigator in the world. Pardon? Why, you ain't got a badge, have you? Like this one. I could arrest you with this if I wanted to. Wouldn't put it past her. Now think of it, there was talk of some scorching on the ground at a meeting we had about the investigation.
Hold it!
There was considerable damage to the sage and surrounding area, wasn't there? Yeah, some of the coves what were watching the experiment were caught in the blast and injured. Good job the whole contraption didn't keel over, eh? I hadn't even considered that. Seems there was great panic after the incident occurred. Nevertheless, the police shouldn't have missed a torn piece of the envelope from a balloon. Inspector Gregson can expect repercussions. Like me swiping all his fish and chips, eh? The man's sole pleasure. None of this matters. That scrap of balloon envelope means nothing. Niente!
Hold it!
You mean the color is wrong? Si, senor. I do not have any green balloons in my warehouse. And yet, a piece of green cloth was found at the scene. It's unmistakably from a balloon. Well, I do not know how that can be. For the sake of argument, let's say that a green balloon did explode above the stage. You couldn't therefore conclude that it happened on the day in question. Why not? There have been recreational balloon flights over Hyde Park operating from before the Great Exhibition. One could have exploded on some earlier date. Unfortunate, as I'm sure you'd agree. You believe it may have been from some earlier balloon accident that predates the exhibition. Si, exactamente. As the Signor says, it's not from one of my balloons. Clearly, this little ragazzo from Bohemia is mistaken about what he saw.
Excuse me.
Alright, is something wrong, Master Gotts? It's Master Wilhelm Gottschalk, Sigismund Ormstein. It was on the tip of my tongue. Yeah, something is very wrong. I know what I saw. There was a green balloon there. I swear it. I swear all over Bohemia. You can speak as much bad language as you like, but it changes nothing. If you do not have evidence, ragazzo, then I must tell your parents to punish you, eh? Perhaps we'll let the judge decide when it comes to punishments. Evidence? What is this evidence? To give a simple example, young man. A photograph, for instance. Some tangible proof of what you claim. Well, why didn't you say so sooner? I have the photograph here. Isn't he such a good child? I had not been up in a balloon for a little while, so I was very excited. I took lots and lots of photographs. Of the Crystal Tower, of the Bohemian exhibit, of the streets of London, of the hot eel cellar, the balloon. And the instantaneous kinesis experiment? Did you take a picture of that? Yeah! One picture. Really? You did take one? But all I wanted was a ride in a balloon. I was not interested in boring experiments. Never mind that. Can you show us that photograph? Of course! And then you will see. You will see that I am not lying. That I really did see a green balloon. Well, I see you are all too shocked to speak. Yes, I think shocked is indeed the word, young man. Yeah, perhaps you cannot see that it was a green balloon from this photograph, but that is not my fault. That is the fault of the stupid person who made the camera. That is one very bohemian sounding cry. I am not voicing the tantrum. Very well, the court will accept this photograph as evidence. It's not my fault. It's the fault of the person who made the camera. Well, never mind. I'm sure you have plenty of wonderful sepia memories to take home with you. In any case, when exactly did you take that photograph? Well, it was on the day of the big explosion. You don't say. When I pressed the shutter release, there was this very loud bang, and a hot wind rushed over my face. That means this photograph was taken a split second before the explosion occurred. Well, if you ask me, this black and white photograph changes nothing. I could not give the flying fig. Lovely language you've picked up. So I thought Mr. Loon's testimony just doesn't quite add up. The young Bohemian boy claims to have seen another fourth balloon. But Mr. Loon vehemently denies the possibility. And it's hard to imagine the man in charge could be mistaken about the number that's in the air. Still, this inconsistency must tell us something, I'm sure.
Objection!
Unfortunately, the photographs Master Gotts took can't tell us the color of the balloon. It can tell us something else, something crucially important. It shows that the pictured balloon wasn't carrying any passengers. My goodness, you're right! But surely all the balloons would have been carrying passengers. There would be no sense in it otherwise. See, they are for pleasure, for seeing the view. My balloons only fly with passengers. Which tells us the pictured balloon isn't one of them. So when the incident occurred that day, there was a fourth balloon in the skies above the experimentation stage. The mysterious green balloon. I know nothing. Niente. I can only tell you one thing. If this balloon was not carrying passengers, then it was not one of mine.
Objection!
There are illegal tradesmen everywhere you care to look. Clearly, one such entrepreneur decided to capitalize on the opportunity presented by the Great Exhibition and managed to operate balloon flights on Mr. Loon's patch without him realizing. See, the competition is trying to steal my profits. I did not notice because of the experimento that went wrong on the stage. This fourth balloon exploded at the very same moment Mr. Asman was beamed from the stage below. Right, so them scraps that fell to the ground after and left them scorch marks, they didn't come from the stage at all. It was bits of the balloon raining down. But, because no one was in it, it didn't get no attention. A mysterious fourth balloon carrying no passengers silently floating over the experimentation stage.
Objection!
This photograph shows us nothing more. A stray balloon carrying no one and operated by some rogue trader. Clearly it has nothing to do with the case. Its relevance does elude me, I must say. The court has seen sufficient evidence and heard ample testimony already. The prosecution calls for this trial to be concluded. Really? Have we really got to the truth yet? No, I can't let this opportunity slip away. The jurors' minds are made up, and not in our favor. What else can this photograph tell us? Is there nothing more we can learn from it?
Objection!
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, wait, please don't give your decisions yet. The photograph from Master Gotts may well be hiding one more vital clue. What's that? A vital clue?
Objection!
We're well past the point of mere possibilities. It's time for definitives now. Tell the court. What exactly does this alleged clue in the photograph prove? The cause of the bang. We can reasonably assume that the pictured balloon was destroyed in the searing heat of the explosion. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was not my fault. Evidently. Because the bird cage from the kinesis machine materialized in the sky where it had been flying. And the balloon, being filled with flammable hydrogen, instantly and explosively ignited.
Objection!
No, that's not what happened. What? Would appear this photograph requires closer examination. Counsel for the defense, you will highlight the location of this alleged clue in the photograph for the court. There's a visible beam, exactly! If you look closely, it's plain enough to see. And what's shown is linked to another piece of evidence we have, in a way that leads to an unbelievable conclusion. Boop.
Take that!
Timing of this photograph can only be described as miraculous. Simply the best. If you look, you'll notice there's a bright white line that appears to point directly at the balloon. Most likely a ray of light caught incidentally on the film. I'm afraid I can see nothing of the sort. If you look with a magnifying glass, my lord, it becomes clear what the nature of this bright line really is. What is that? Undeniably, some flash of light, yes. Oh, golly. Do you think it might be lightning? But it couldn't have been a finer day. I believe we may be looking at fire. Bolt of fire headed straight for the balloon, like an arrow. Indeed, even to my aging eyes, it would appear to be a flame of some sort. My word, are you suggesting this flame struck the hydrogen gas that filled the balloon?
Objection!
It's absurd. A balloon would have been 60 feet above the ground at the time. No flame could possibly have reached such a height.
Objection!
Actually, it's my opinion. A particular piece of evidence found at the scene reveals that is exactly what did happen. What evidence? If such evidence exists, counsel, then for goodness sake, present it, man! Which evidence explains this mysterious streak of flame that appears to be headed directly for the balloon?
Take that!
This was found hidden at the foot of a small ornamental tree near the scene. Is that a crossbow? An arrow dipped in oil and set alight could have been shot from this weapon, sending a flaming arrow straight into the hydrogen-filled balloon. You suggesting that crossbow was used to deliberately... Blimey, you're right, that streak of light in the photo looks just like an arrow, doesn't it? Then, the explosion of the balloon, it was very likely the result of a flaming arrow from this crossbow igniting the hydrogen gas inside it. Counsel, this is an extraordinary supposition. If the aim was to cause the balloon to explode, the shooter could have used a gun, of course. However, there's an obvious reason why that would have been out of the question. The noise of the discharge? Of course. That's right. By using a crossbow, the projectile could be fired at the balloon silently. Well, near silently. A crossbow isn't actually silent, it does make a choo, but it's a very, very quiet, and if the explosion on stage happened at near the same time as the shot happened... Yeah, if someone had shot off a gun in the exhibition grounds, it would have caused a real panic. But with the big explosion, there was a very big panic anyway, no? I don't like this. I should be pleased to have found a plausible new explanation for all this, but something feels wrong.
Objection!
Do you understand the implications of what you're saying, my Nipponese friend? If a flaming arrow did indeed hit the balloon, then obviously it would have exploded. And if the birdcage appeared from the cloud of smoke that ensued... What? Wait a minute. What are you really saying here? I don't get it. Was the birdcage beamed up into the sky after all, or what? Goodness me! Ah, now I understand. That's what that sinking feeling is about. I think there's a good chance that the birdcage was actually concealed inside the balloon all along. Did I just hear that correctly, Counsel? There's no going back now. The horse has bolted. Let's assume, as I said, that the birdcage was hidden inside the green balloon from the start. On stage, when the experiment was started, the birdcage in the instantaneous machine disappeared in a cloud of smoke. I missed a word there. I know I missed a word there. At that moment, the flaming arrow was fired from the ground, causing the green balloon to explode and drawing the attention of the spectators to the sky above their heads. From amid the smoke, the hidden birdcage then appeared to fall down and crash into the crystal tower. I think you'll all agree it's entirely plausible that what I've just described is the real truth behind the miraculous experiment carried out on that day. Good grief!
Objection!
This is ludicrous. What you've described is no science experiment. It's child's play. A contemptible display of stage magic. Both Mr. Sholmes and Iris said the experiment was a scientific impossibility. In which case, this is the only way to explain what happened that day. And in any case, the victim's body was found inside the birdcage in the crystal tower. If the instantaneous kinesis didn't take place, how do you explain that? If I may put in a word as a man of magic myself, such apparent discrepancies can easily be explained by some simple deception. Juror number 3? And that's why there's a juror that's a magician. All that would be needed is a doppelganger. Someone who looked very similar to the victim, Mr. Asman. And having this other man appear on stage to front the show as a body double. Of course. So, in fact, Mr. Asman must have been inside the birdcage that was concealed inside the balloon right from the start.
Objection!
That balloon would have been filled with hydrogen. Anything hidden inside it would have been scattered to the four winds when it exploded. No one would have ever embarked on such a risky venture. Unless he was already dead! Not necessarily. The explosive force of the balloon gas would very much depend upon the mixture ratio. Juror number 4. Flying balloons are rarely filled with pure hydrogen, but a mixture of other gases, such as helium as well. Helium on its own doesn't explode, but by controlling the gas mixture ratio, the explosive force can be altered. The mixture ratio? Who's ready for science? Obviously, the victim's body would have suffered some burns that would be unavoidable. But not to such an extent as to render this whole obscene charade impossible. So everything that happened can be explained, logically and scientifically. The explosion that engulfed the stage at the start of the experiment was no accident. It was all part of an elaborate deception to make it appear that instantaneous kinesis had occurred. And if we accept that this is what happened, means the victim, Mr. Asman, was never present on the public experimentation stage to begin with. In short, he couldn't have been killed by the defendant, who was on stage in full view the entire time. This will be very hard for the prosecution to counter. Lord Van Zykes can't credibly maintain that Professor Harebrain is a suspect now. Mr. Naruhodo, I appreciate your efforts. Thank you. Professor? But you can stop now. Just keep your mouth shut, please. Sorry? What's all this about, Mr. Harebrain? I think it's a harebrained idea. I, Albert Harebrain, hereby confess that it was me who stabbed Mr. Odie Asman. Yes, it was me, with my faithful friend and partner, Andrew the Screwdriver. What? What are you doing? Defendant, explain this sudden confession.
Objection!
Professor Harebrain, what are you talking about? It's what I've said all along. I must protect my hypothesis. And my precious machine. You stand there and claim it was all a trick and all an elaborate prank. But where's your proof? No, you'd have to examine the machine if you wanted to prove it, but then it would all be over. My beautiful hypothesis would be laid bare. I mean, the indignity of it. It's clear that you drew the plans for the experiment, but you didn't actually build it. It's quite conceivable that you were duped, Professor. If you'll just let me, I can prove... Barak! Yes? I'll cooperate. I'll do whatever you say. I swear it. So please... ensure the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act is adhered to and protect my creation. I see. I think it was not scientific equipment is the problem. Pray, forgive the discourtesy of filling my hallowed chalice at this critical juncture. Yeah, he drew the plans, but someone else built it. Probably. Easy to sabotage. Here's to my learned Nipponese friend. And his upcoming attempt to clarify the defense's position in the light of the accused's confession. Do you intend to formally assert the experiment was nothing more than a conjuring trick? Because the moment you do, the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act that protects the professor's invention will cease to apply. The prosecution will then demand a rigorous examination of the machinery involved in order to establish the truth. However, if you acknowledge the machine is genuine and instrumental in the victim's murder, any chance of investigating will be crushed, and the confidentiality of the professor's hypothesis preserved. Anyway. Well, counsel, what is the defense's official position on this matter? What Professor Harebrain, my client, actually asked of me was to prove the explosion on stage was an accident and protect the secrecy of his hypothesis. But there's no way to do that without implying the professor's guilt. Do I protect my client's life by asserting his innocence, or do I uphold my client's request but see him condemned? Either way, I can't avoid betraying his trust. You've been silent long enough. Isn't talking your trade, my learned friend? Isn't it yours? Or has all knowledge of English escaped your confused Nipponese mind? Mr. Naruhodo! There's no escape here. I have to make a choice. But it's an impossible one. I have to give up on something, but what? The defense asserts that the defendant's instantaneous kinesis machine was, in fact... You know, I don't really want to lose Harebrain's trust in me as a lawyer. So rock in a hard place here. But I suppose I'm gonna try and keep Harebrain's trust in me by saying it was a proper scientific invention. Ah! No, I can't say it. My client placed his faith in me. I can't just let him down. What must I give up on is not the question you have to ask yourself here. It's what can I protect? Hello again, Mr. Naruhodo. It's been far too long. Susato-san? But what are you... Hey! My first Susato takedown in 6 months! Nice! I suppose that was nice. There'll be time to talk later, Mr. Naruhodo. For now, we must concentrate on the task at hand. Why, I mean, considering she just threw me! I'm willing to bet that she is physically there. Working out not what I have to give up on, but what I can protect. I don't know when she got there, but... Professor Harebrain. Ah, yes? Yesterday you told me that science is the pursuit of truth. Well, my job is to pursue the truth, too. Yes, of course. And personally, I believe you didn't stab Mr. Asman. I think you've come to realize something yourself, too, haven't you? that your experiment and the machine you built with the victim are questionable. Truth behind that is what we must both pursue now. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry about your hypothesis, buddy. So, you finally opened your eyes. What? And as for you, Albert, you can't ignore this any longer. Having heard my learned friend's assertion, don't you have something to say? But, Barrock? Lord Van Zykes? Gosh, I've never heard him speak that way before. In truth, there is one thing. Something I've remembered that's of relevance. What? On the day it happened, just before I began the experiment, I saw a man near the stage. A man holding that crossbow. I beg your pardon? Professor! Did the man have any distinguishing features? What did he look like? Tall. Taller than me, and thin. Thinner than me, and straight hair. Straighter and whiter than mine. You see, one less lens than me, too. Monocle. Rather stylish black monocle. But one thing in particular will help to positively identify that man. You see, I know him very well. After all, he's the engineer who built my invention. What? He built the machine? That's right. Mr. Asman introduced me to him a year ago. He's a man by the name of Enoch Drebber. Enoch Drebber? Does his name mean something? Members of the jury seem flustered. Not a name any scientist wishes to hear. That man's an abomination. Not a name any conjurer wishes to hear either. Who on earth is he? I'm afraid this isn't the first tale of this nature I've heard in scientific circles in connection with that name. There's talk of other flamboyant experiments that turn out to be nothing but stage trickery in the end. Obviously, the rascal is after the government's research grant money. When magicians are in need of money, I've heard of them resorting to these underhand tactics. Some acquaintances of mine with experience of such things have mentioned Enoch Drebber's name before. The man is both an engineer and a magician. Yes, we're dealing with an unparalleled confidence trickster here. That's Enoch Drebber for you. So it's true then. My invention, my great machine, is just a grand illusion. Considering what we've just heard about Mr. Drebber's character, I'm sorry to say that sounds increasingly likely. Even though no one else believed it, I wanted to. I wanted to believe that machine would function exactly as my hypothesis predicted. Which is why you were so opposed to it being investigated, I presume. I knew if the machine was examined in detail, its construction would give away my hypothesis. Obviously, I didn't want that to happen. But at the same time, I knew if it was found to be nothing more than a trick, than a work of deception, then everything I'd worked towards all my research, all my dreams, my whole life would be over. I was terrified at the prospect. So you really had no idea then, did you? About the true nature of the machine that was built. And the true nature of Mr. Drebber. I never questioned anything. I didn't want to question it. It's entirely possible that Mr. Asman and Mr. Drebber were working together to use you as a means of fraudulently acquiring the research grant money. Which means it's possible that the actual killer was Mr. Drebber. Increasingly plausible. When I announced my invention to the crowds that day, it was the finest moment of my career. I pulled all the levers and turned all the dials in exactly the way Drebber had described. When the smoke suddenly started billowing out, I panicked. I didn't know what was happening. But I really don't know how the whole illusion was made to work. I don't know anything anymore. Let me confirm one final point with you, Professor. Do you now consent to the prosecution submitting the necessary paperwork to release your invention from the protection afforded by the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act? Yes. Please, go ahead. I'm very sorry. Oh, poor guy. Would appear we shall have to suspend proceedings for the remainder of the day now. Lord Van Zykes. My lord? The court has newly been made aware of another party whose involvement in this matter is critical. Yes, Mr. Drebber. Gather information about the man. If possible, I should like him served with a subpoena. With pleasure, my lord. Now, counsel for the defense? Yes, my lord. When we reconvene, I shall be looking for one thing and one thing alone from you. Evidence that the defendant is innocent of the crime for which he presently stands accused. I understand. Good. In that case, this court is adjourned until tomorrow morning. October 23rd, 1:36 p.m., the Old Bailey Defendant's Antechamber. Poor Professor Hairbrain. Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? I'm so sorry. I was wrong, you were right, I tricked you, you trusted me, I dragged you into my mess. Oh, how did it ever come to this? I'm so sorry! Did you really have no idea, Professor? About what Mr. Drebber was really up to, I mean. About what he was really constructing. Naturally! That machine was the embodiment of my hypothesis, of all my hopes and dreams. I had complete faith in it. Alright, in that case I won't say any more. Now, sadly, the murder accusation against you still stands. So we must do as much investigation as we can before the trial resumes tomorrow. Well, thank you for doing so much for me. I'm so sorry for arriving late this morning, Mr. Naruhodo. Arriving late? Didn't you receive my postcard? I wanted to let you know when I'd arrive. Postcard? What postcard? I hid it from you, Runo, so it would be a surprise. Well, did it work? I was surprised, all right. Especially when she threw me to the ground. Oh dear, I'm so sorry. I was just so happy to see you again that it sort of slipped out. Maybe we could stick to more traditional displays of emotion in the future? Susie's train was late into London, Victoria this morning, you see. But we made the coachman really whip the horses hard so she didn't miss the whole trial. I was watching from the gallery for a while, but in the end, I'm afraid I couldn't contain myself. Well, I'm glad you didn't. Oh! A Susato takedown slipped out, yeah. Well, probably also the little dialogue about, oh, don't talk about what you have to give up. Talk about what you have to save or something. Whatever that was. So I'm delighted to see you back in London. Oh, you're too kind, Mr. Naruhodo. I'm delighted to be here. I hope I can continue to be of service to you. Of course. So, what's brought you back? Did Professor Mikotobo not protest? Let's save all that conversation for when we're back at home, shall we? You know, I've made one of my most special blends ever for this special occasion. Oh, Iris, how wonderful! I can't wait! Susato-san was back in London. It's hard to describe how happy that made me feel at the time. But despite my elation, our tale was about to take yet another extraordinary turn. To be continued. To be continued on Friday. On Wednesday, I'm going to be wrapping up the plot of Legend ZA. Yes, I am going to overwrite the save. Of course I'm going to overwrite the save. I keep overwriting the save. Investigation Part 2! Alright, so on Wednesday, finishing the main story of Legend ZA. Maybe getting a little bit into the free, like, the post-game stuff. And on Friday, Investigation Part 2 of the Return of the Great Departed Soul. So, I will see everyone for both of those.